Serious. What's the scariest place you've ever found that you thought shouldn't have existed? Story 1. Late at night, I was driving through the rural stretches near the borders of Vermont and Massachusetts. It was the kind of late that was actually early, with the dense fog wrapping everything up like a blanket, making it look like something straight out of Silent Hill. There I was like the main character in a horror movie, lost in back roads. Suddenly one of my highlights gave up. The thick fog was so bad, high beams were out of the question. Stranded in the middle of nowhere, with nothing but fields and eerie darkness around me. I stepped out to check under the hood when the car started groaning like it was in pain. The check engine light began to flicker like a faulty street lamp. I'm no mechanic, so I just timed everything I could lay my hands on. My attempts only led to a new headache. Now the car wouldn't even start. There I was, stuck in the dark, miles from anywhere, with not a house or town in sight, and of course, no cell service. Because why would there be? Wandering the road seemed like a bad idea, so I leaned my seat back and decided to wait for daylight. When I woke up, the sun was up and the fog was clearing, but here's where it gets weird. I was parked in the main street of a small, unknown town, facing a building that looked eerily like the house from Bates Motel. Houses were all around, creating a vibe that made my skin crawl. I was sure I'd been in the woods all night. Not a single light had been on these houses. Curious yet careful, I spotted a service station about 50 yards away. I walked over to a guy who looked normal enough and explained my predicament. He strolled over, asked me to try the ignition, and like some kind of miracle, my car sprang to life, headlights and all. I drove off, never getting the name of that ghostly village. It was like it didn't exist on any map. That whole experience felt like I had stumbled onto a horror movie set where the story just didn't quite come together. Isolated towns are always the scariest. You never know what strange things are hiding there. Story 2. Back in my younger days after college when I was still figuring things out, my friends and I explored the Hudson Valley, chasing spooky tales and urban myths whispered among classmates, older siblings, and the creatively deceptive. From Peekskill Hollow to Cold Spring, Quaker Hill to Pauling Dover, and even the Kent Woods, which hint at the strange wonders hidden in the woods and along the back roads. There were abandoned houses with a ghostly feel, stone huts mimicking ancient Celtic structures, the usual paranormal legends waiting for a daring journey. One night we heard a tale about an abandoned house in Cold Spring or Carmel, along Peekskill Hollow Road. The story, passed down by an older sibling, unfolded like a tragic 80s drama. In those tough times, a family lived there, their lives unraveling amid a divorce. The husband, out on bail for a heinous crime, had once held his estranged wife and daughter captive within those walls. As the trial proceeded, he reached a breaking point. Returning to the house, he discovered his wife entangled with a younger lover, pushing him further into madness. A horrifying act followed, leaving both wife and lover lifeless. The husband then vanished, and his abandoned car was discovered near the Tappan Zee Bridge. Whether he leaped to his demise or started a new life remains a mystery. The source of this dark legend still had ties to the surviving daughter, adding a layer of scary truth to the tale. But what truly captivated us were the rumors of the husband's involvement in organized crime, painting the abandoned house as more than just a crime scene. Armed with youthful curiosity, a tank full of gas, folding knives, a baseball bat, and the indispensable Nextel-phones, we embarked on a journey fueled by paranoia and imagination, seeking the infamous house hidden in the shadows. The search dragged on. Peekskill Hollow Road, a twisting, lantern-ridden wooden path infamous for solar car mishaps, presented its sinister trials. The driveways lining this road stretched out, and our sought-after description guided us. Across from a big field on the right, northern side of the road, an overgrown gravel driveway ascending into the woods. You'll know you're on track halfway up, spotting rows of abandoned cars. After 4 fruitless attempts, we spotted a promising tree-free drive with 2 tire paths etched in the grass. My buddies and I, the daring explorers, rode in Ant's red 97 Eagle Talon through what looked like a prairie in his low-riding car. This was the first scary part. Around 50 cars were scattered in the woods on both sides of the driveway. New, old, BMWs, Oldsmobiles, Fords, Jeeps, some rusty, some shiny, and everything in between. None had plates. In our scared state, checking VINs or doing anything sensible seemed too hard. Then we saw the house. It was a 1-story ranch with a basement garage and a garage door that looked like it was from the scary 70s. Tall grass covered the house, except for a small deck behind the back door. There was a worn wooden chair blocking the stairs. We chose to break in through the garage, which was wide open compared to our other completely legal entries. Inside, a creepy feeling surrounded us. The house was fully furnished, with a pot cooking in the stove and a set of clothes laid out in the bed. It was like the people who lived there disappeared in the middle of the morning. On one side of the bed, dark brown stains hinted that it was where the crime happened. Stretching from the wall to the bed, random spots covered the whole top floor, showing someone desperately trying to escape. A half-brown footprint stain remained on the hallway carpet. After about 20 to 30 minutes inside, we heard a faint sound of tires spinning in the mud. I think at least one of us messed up our boxers because of the sudden bad smell. We ran through the house and out the garage to our car. Even though we couldn't see the car, we knew it wasn't on the main road but still in the driveway, the sound of tires struggling in the mud confirming our fears. So we went down to the road with our headlights off. We moved around the only bend in the driveway and went down the hill. We saw an abandoned car. Its tires spun as a couple of guys tried to rock it back and forth, hoping to get some traction. Our teenage minds, fueled by grass, all agreed to act cool. We drove past 3 surprised men at a slow 5 to 10 miles per hour with our headlights off. The noise from our car's engine and spinning tires blended into the night. The 2 guys struggling with their stuck car looked at each other. One of them yelled at the other guy, "Who did you tell?" Then he reached for something inside the car. We sped away without looking back, almost avoiding 2 or 3 possible crashes during our fast drive down the road, back into the well-lit streets of Carmel. We didn't talk about it, afraid of being found out by whoever was keeping all those cars there for who knows what reason. Story 3. This story happened way back in a massive forest near my childhood home. We're talking about the early 90s, a time when kids like us roamed outside for hours, free from constant supervision. One day my younger brother and I, driven by our sheer boredom, grabbed our backpacks and set out on an adventure, fully embracing our roles as pretend explorers. Our goal? Walk deep into the woods to rediscover a spot we stumbled upon once with a friend, a wide, shallow creek nestled between 2 imposing hills. The sunlight filtered through the trees, giving a mesmerizing glow, and the creek sparkled with pebbles of various hues. During our last visit, we sat along the bank, ate our lunch, and marveled at the deer that frequented the area. We affectionately dubbed it the Magic Place due to its captivating beauty and peaceful charm. With a somewhat vague notion of its location in the memory of some old overgrown trails, we made it our mission to revisit this cherished spot that day. After a considerable hike, we finally reached our destination. No deer in sight this time, and a touch of fog in the air, but we found it nonetheless. While it didn't quite replicate the enchantment of our first visit, our curiosity drove us to explore the surrounding area further. We bravely crossed the stream, climbed the other hill, and followed the remnants of an ancient trail that led us to a daunting wall of brambles, trees, and a wooden fence wrapped with wire. Unwilling to let our adventure end without a thrill, we carefully scaled the fence and battled through the thorny brambles to discover the mysteries that lay beyond. On the other side, we found a vast open field, and as we walked further, we discovered an ancient house covered by a towering tree line. The house, draped in white with peeling paint, gave off a farmhouse-like aura but appeared as a scary blend of different architectural styles, bearing the scars of numerous additions and repairs. Dominating the structure was a massive A-frame window at its top, hauntingly watching the land below. While our instincts told us that we might have intruded in someone's territory, our curiosity prevailed. Yet the eerie silence, the absence of any signs of life, and the decay of the surroundings hinted at an abandoned dwelling with a history shrouded in mystery. Another strange detail that convinced us to stay was these towering stalks, standing at a daunting 9 to 10 feet tall, resembling wheat or some other golden brown dried crop or plant. They formed wide pathways, weaving a maze-like structure in front of the house. It was like a Halloween corn maze, blended with the towering hedges found in haunting old garden. This maze, stretching seemingly without end, lured us into its depths. We played in there for what felt like an eternity, but a creepy feeling crept over both of us, a strange feeling that someone observed us from a distance through the vast window of the house. As this unease transformed into a profound sense of dread, we made a hasty decision to sneak out and hastily journey back to our home. The encroaching darkness heightened the anxiety of navigating the woods, with the lingering feeling that an unseen presence trailed us. Upon arriving home, we told everything to our mom, hoping for any information about the mysterious house. Sadly, she knew nothing about it, but she did join us on our next walks, attempting to rediscover the strange place. I have a vivid memory of this haunting place. My younger brother shares the same, and my mom remembers our animated storytelling when we arrived home, attempting to unlock the secrets of that mysterious spot. Many years have passed, but the puzzle of what that place truly was remains unsolved, shrouded in an air of mystery. This is why parents should always look after their children. Kids might find something disturbing if they wander off. How about you? Have you ever taken a wrong turn that led you to some scary place? If you have, then share your story in the comments and give this video a like. Subscribe to my channel now for more terrifying stories. Story 4. One summer, I worked for an underground utility company in the greater DC area. Our job was to put an electronic signaling device in a pipe or wire, trace its path with the receiver tuned into that specific frequency, and mark the ground above it with color-coded spray paint. Essentially, we were the call-before-you-dig people. This particular job led us to an NSA satellite site undergoing new construction. As we followed a wire, we took a sharp turn away from the other utilities, leading straight into the woods at the edge of the site. Curiosity got the best of us, and we began tracing the line and marking its path. Suddenly, 4 military policemen came sprinting up to us, commanding us to a halt and demanding an explanation for our direction. We showed them how the receiver picked up the signal, guiding us into the woods. Despite our findings, they dismissed it, assuring us there was nothing important that way, and directed us back to the main area. It felt strange. There was a significant power source leading into seemingly empty woods. As we continued our work, the air carried a tense feeling, as if something hidden lingered just beyond our sight. The seemingly innocent woods held a mystery the MPs didn't want us to uncover. The experience left us with an uneasy feeling, a sense that we had noticed something beyond our understanding. The unknown power coursing through those woods hinted at secrets that begged to be discovered, yet remained shrouded in haunting silence. Story 5. Back in college, someone suggested exploring an old house that was supposed to be abandoned. I'd never done anything like that before, but I thought, why not? We drove along the highway and took a side road until we reached the house. Next to it, there was an old cemetery. That gave me the creeps. Despite feeling a bit scared, we explored the house. It did look like the people who lived there had left suddenly, leaving everything behind. Some areas were messed up with vandals, probably looking for stuff to take, but most of it remained untouched. Among the items, there were some not so old, maybe about 5 to 10 years old, while others, like the telephone, dated back to the 1950s. There were occasional suggestions from my friends to take something cool, but as far as I know, nobody actually took anything. Then someone got spooked when they saw a car slowly passing by the house, assuming they were checking why we were there, but the car didn't stop and just drove on. It was strange because this place was way off the usual roads, and having another car drive by seemed odd. Afterwards, we decided to explore the little cemetery. As we walked among the graves, we noticed they were really old, some over 75 years old. One person in our group felt a connection to one of the graves, picked some flowers and placed them on it. Suddenly, as if on cue, the wind picked up and it became incredibly dusty. My eyes teared up from the particles in the air, giving me the feeling that a storm was approaching. The sky darkened, and we hurried into the car to leave. However, someone shouted, "Who's that guy?" claiming there was someone now standing in the cemetery. Another person in the car also saw him and yelled for us to go. The driver shifted into drive and we sped away, leaving the girls who saw this man in a state of terror. They insisted he had not been there when we arrived at the car, just a couple of minutes earlier. I saw no one, but their fear was real. It was a strange experience. We never went back to that place. We also never talked about it again. Seeing a guy pop out of nowhere would really make you want to run for your life. Story 6. Back when I was in 3rd grade, my dad and I went camping at this massive international site. I joined a team of about 12 other kids, each representing a different country, and together, we walked into the wide forest surrounding our campsite. Laughter filled the air as we played tag and hide and seek and had fun climbing trees. Our shared excitement even led us to try learning bits of each other's languages. At around lunchtime, we decided to head back for a picnic. Somehow, we took a wrong turn and found ourselves in an intriguing yet terrifying, fenced-in area. Covered in ivy and dry moss, it looked like a small cottage graveyard for rusty machinery, car parts, bikes, and electronics. Approaching the gate, a weird rustling noise echoed, and our eyes widened as a man popped his head over, grinning with greasy hair and bad teeth. The shock of seeing him made us freeze, and he started laughing and shaking the gate. Panic set in. That was our cue to run as fast as we could. The littlest kids piggybacking the biggest and the rest of us clinging together. Looking back on that strange encounter, none of us dared to speak of it. The true nature of the event was beyond our young minds. We simply knew it was really disturbing, so we didn't really talk about it. Today, the once open site remains forbidden, making sure that the secrets of that forest are hidden away from curious kids. Forever. Story 7. I like going on little adventures, exploring new places and taking unexpected turns down unfamiliar streets. It adds spice to life. As an artist, I enjoy capturing landscapes and photographs for reference. One day after visiting a small farm near my house, complete with a charming store and tempting baked goods, I decided to take a different route. I randomly stopped at the edge of an unfamiliar place and a strange feeling made my skin crawl. It was sunset, with the hues of orange and yellow painting the late spring, the early summer sky. A freshly mowed strip of land stretched between two properties, leading to a dilapidated barn. Next to a small stone bench, there stood an archway adorned with withered flowers. The strange feeling went on as if the place had a magnetic pull on me, particularly drawing me toward the archway and bench. Despite the trespassing, I couldn't resist taking a few more steps. With each move, the unease intensified. A voice in the back of my mind urged me to turn around and flee, insisting that something was off about this place. However, my feet continued forward, almost without my conscious thought, until the feeling of unease transformed into an urgent scream to escape. I stopped in my tracks, feigning interest in the view while secretly assessing if the strange pull would intensify. It did for a moment, and the instant I felt its grip release, I ran back to my car as fast as I could. I can't understand what happened or what might have unfolded had it continued. I've never shared this with anyone, but now I avoid that street as if my life depends on it. Story 8. My friend and I used to go on late-night campus explorations at my college, always searching for anything interesting. The college was old and we discovered a bunch of rooftops, unused rooms, basement levels that went down 7 stories, entire floors colored brilliantly white with clear glass rooms, one eye-level sculpture that was quite anatomically detailed, 1,000 cups of wine stacked on the floor, a paintball shooting range, just a ton of stuff. However, the most interesting discovery wasn't on campus but in my own house. Some college friends and I rented an old mansion built in the early 1920s from an elderly lady. The place was falling apart. It was huge. The rent was dirt cheap. About 2 years into living there, I went to the basement to do some laundry. As I momentarily lost my balance, I reached out to steady myself using one of the wall panels. To my surprise, it flexed more than expected, and upon closer inspection, I found it was removable. Behind it was a small, mostly empty, very dirty concrete room, approximately 100 square feet. I say mostly because right in the middle, there was a hole the size of a well that had been previously bricked up. It must have been old because the bricks had eroded, exposing a 2-foot diameter circle out of the full 5 feet. After calling my friends down to look at it, I mustered the courage to creep a little closer and look down. There was another room roughly the same size but deep, maybe 15 feet down, and mostly filled with dirt. We shined a flashlight there and I could swear there was a teddy bear at the bottom. Unfortunately, despite plenty of bargaining, none of us were able to work up the courage to tie a rope and climb down for a closer look. Especially after we noticed that the bricks, which I thought had fallen in, were all accounted for, scattered around the holes as if something had broken out. We did a little research and think the sub-basement may have been related to Prohibition, but honestly, I'm just willing to accept that explanation to avoid lifelong nightmares. The mysterious room and its hidden history remain an unsettling mystery that still gives me chills. Who knows if that toy's got a haunted spirit like Annabelle? Story 9. My great-grandma lived in an apartment building in North Dakota near the Canadian border. Winters could get pretty cold. There was a secret tunnel system connecting the apartments to other places like the gym and the main office. My brother and I, both from Colorado, a place with strange warm and cold winters, had never seen anything like it before and went exploring. Some teenagers had made a cool hangout with a TV and a couch, but we didn't want to watch TV. We wanted to explore more of this tunnel system. There was one tunnel without lights, and we thought we shouldn't go there. But my brother decided to check it out with a small flashlight, and I followed. It ended at a wall with a door. The door was unlocked, and when my brother opened it, it was just another dark hallway going who knows where. We decided not to go further and went back to great-grandma's apartment. Looking back, I'm sure it was just a maintenance tunnel or something. But when I was a teenager, I thought we were entering a demon's lair. The darkness of that tunnel still gives me shivers when I think about it. Story 10. When I was in college, the freshman dorms were these massive 10-story apartment-like structures. Every other floor, even numbered floors, had a little lounge on the east side of the building with a TV and couches and stuff. It was meant to be a community space. We noticed that on the subsequent odd-numbered floors, this space still physically existed but was walled up behind a brick wall for some reason. We managed to pry up some ceiling tiles, climb through the rafters, and go down. They were literally the exact same lounges as the even-numbered floors, complete with dusty couches still there, just bricked up and not used. As we explored those hidden lounges, the air felt different, stale and heavy. The untouched couches carried a sense of forgotten stories, and the eerie silence of the walled-off space left us with more questions than answers. It was like stumbling upon a secret history, with no one willing to unveil the mystery of why these common spaces were concealed and left to gather dust. No one was ever able to explain to us why they decided to wall off the student lounges and half the building, or why they left the furniture there when they did so. The unspoken secrets of those bricked-up lounges lingered in the air, haunting the odd-numbered floors with their silent tales. Story 11. We bought this old Victorian house that we lived in for quite a few years. My dad ended up turning it into a restaurant. When my parents bought it, they went to one of the top floor's rooms and discovered it had apparently been turned into a room devoted to worshipping the occult. There were all sorts of markings on the ground and walls, with red and white paint all over. They had a priest bless it before we moved in, and my sister was the lucky one who ended up sleeping in that room. She said she had quite a few nightmares while we lived there. That room would have been perfect if you're into witchcraft, but watch out, because the secrets from the past might haunt you. Well done on making it to the end. If you want more haunting stories, then stay tuned for the next video. Story 2 scared me out of my wits. See you there.